What happened to you covered in blood? My high school freshman daughter Becky, who was supposed to have gone to my husband's family home with him, returned home bleeding from her forehead, so I screamed in shock. After hastily treating her wounds, I immediately contacted my husband, Ryan, and when he answered the phone, I couldn't help but yell at him. Ryan, where are you?
I told you I'm on a business trip, didn't I?
I was stunned by his unexpected reply. After all, I had seen him off with Becky 5 days earlier, heading to his family home. Before me stood my daughter, seriously injured. Seeing my confusion, Becky told me a shocking truth. My name is Kathy Hansen, a 40-year-old part-time housewife. My husband Ryan, the same age as me, is a salesman who visits various schools to sell high school teaching materials. He always says, "Trust is important." It looks so cool being diligent and proper. Becky became a high school freshman this spring. Once a clingy child who couldn't leave my side, she's now so responsible that she cooks dinner while waiting for me to return from my part-time job. Life was peaceful with my husband and daughter, but 5 years ago my mother became bedridden due to an internal illness. Since then, I've been busy juggling caregiving and my part-time job. I couldn't even manage to visit my in-laws, only managing to greet them during the Christmas holidays. During such times, Ryan would say jokingly,
"Don't overdo it. Aren't you lucky to have an understanding husband?"
and would go to visit his family home alone, laughing. I felt terrible but grateful as I was overwhelmed with caring for my mother. 3 years ago, however, my mother-in-law passed away suddenly in an accident. My father-in-law, who was very close to her, became deeply depressed, and Ryan's visits to his family home became more frequent. Moreover, Ryan said things like,
"I want to take Dad on a trip to cheer him up,"
and
"I want to treat him to some delicious meal."
With each visit, the expenses increased. $300, $500. But I couldn't complain about money as I hadn't been able to visit my in-laws myself. One day, Ryan mentioned the cost of his next visit.
"I need $1,000 for my next trip home."
What? I doubted if such a large sum was really necessary for visiting back home, but he never explained the details of the expenses. It must be necessary. I should think of it as a way of showing how thankful I am to my father-in-law. I convinced myself of this. However, due to the sudden expense, I had no choice but to temporarily withdraw money from the savings account I had set aside for Becky's school fees. I'll have to skip going to the beauty salon for a while and make sure not to dip into Becky's money again. I began to save diligently, gradually returning money to Becky's account. As Becky's exams finally ended and things settled down, my father-in-law said,
"I want to see my granddaughter again." "All right, I'll take Becky and Dad to eat seafood as a reward for their hard work."
Really? Yay! Seeing Becky's beaming smile, I stroked her head, saying, "Thank you for always being so patient." She never complained, even though she always had to endure and even helped with caring for my mother. I was filled with gratitude. Then, on the morning of their departure to visit my father-in-law, Becky said, "I'll buy some souvenirs and come back." I replied, "Have fun." We were all smiling. Little did we know what was about to happen. 5 days after Ryan and Becky left for my in-laws around noon, I was preparing lunch in the kitchen when I heard the front door rattle open. "Who is it, entering without ringing the doorbell?" I was startled and headed to the entrance, shouting, "Yes!" only to find Becky standing there bleeding from her forehead. What on earth happened? I screamed, almost in a shriek, and looking around for Ryan, but he was nowhere to be seen. Trembling, I brought Becky inside and immediately called Ryan. "Ryan, where are you?"
"I'm at work. Didn't I tell you that I left for a business trip the day after taking Becky to my parents' home?"
I was utterly confused, having heard nothing of this work. I had no idea about that, and more importantly, Becky has come home seriously injured.
"She probably just fell. Don't take it too seriously. Girls her age tend to exaggerate. Bye."
Ryan hung up quickly after saying just that. I couldn't possibly accept such a nonsensical story. While tending to Becky, I asked her, "Why are you injured? And did Dad leave for work?" Becky, her face pale, kept her trembling lips sealed for a while, but then she whispered, "Dad, he pushed me." Shocked, I gently rubbed Becky's back as I listened to her story. An unbelievable truth was exposed. Ryan had been keeping secrets from us, and he had injured Becky when she discovered them. And that's not all. He threatened her while she was bleeding, saying,
"If you tell anyone about this, next time it won't just be an injury."
Becky had managed to escape from my in-laws' house when Ryan hesitated as my father-in-law returned back home. Fortunately, she had some money with her and was able to take the bus back home, but how anxious she must have been hiding her injury all the way here. I will never forgive anyone who hurts my sweet Becky. Angry not only at Ryan for abusing Becky, but also at the secrets he had kept, I vowed for revenge. After hearing everything from Becky, I was about to call my father-in-law when I was shocked to see numerous missed calls from him on my phone. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't notice the phone while I was cooking."
"No, it's fine. More importantly, I heard Becky had to rush back due to some urgent matter. Did she arrive safely at your place? That's what I've been worried about and why I called so many times."
Hearing my father-in-law's words left me speechless. My husband, Ryan, had fabricated such a lie to cover up the fact that our daughter, who he had injured, had fled back to our home. I then spilled everything to my father-in-law, who was oblivious to it all. "Becky is fine. I'm taking her to the hospital, but I can't forgive Ryan. Can you keep him at your house a bit longer? I want to give him a piece of my mind." My father-in-law immediately agreed, promising his cooperation. He said he would cunningly persuade Ryan to stay at their home for a while longer. In the meantime, I ran around making preparations for a confrontation with my husband. 5 days later, after completing the investigation into Ryan's secrets, I was on my way to my in-laws' house. Just as I was about to ring the doorbell, I saw Becky running up to me, out of breath. "Mom, wait for me." "Didn't I tell you to wait at home?" "I can't just sit around. I have to confront him about what he did to me." I had planned to go into my in-laws' house alone, not wanting Becky to witness the argument between my husband and I. But it seemed Becky didn't want to just stay put. "I think I have a right to speak up too." Becky was unyielding. Reluctantly, I accepted her anger and decided to fight this together. We were greeted by my father-in-law, who was already aware of the plan. Entering the living room, we found Ryan, who appeared to have just woken up, lounging in his pajamas and watching TV. "Oh, weren't you supposed to be on a business trip?" Ryan, startled by my sudden voice, jumped up. He started making lame excuses about how he was supposed to go, but then didn't need to. "Well, that doesn't matter now. What I want to know about is Becky's injury."
"Oh, that. Clumsy her. Seems like she fell down the stairs and hit her forehead."
I was about to yell at my husband for feigning ignorance, but my father-in-law spoke first.
"Enough. I know that Becky's injury is your fault."
Becky also chimed in. "Yeah, that's right." And I glared at Ryan. Cornered, Ryan started to look nervous, but then suddenly seemed to have an idea and argued back.
"As if you have the right to talk. You never visited my parents, but I was the one taking care of them."
Ryan, smug and grinning, thought I wouldn't be able to say anything. Indeed, I had kept quiet before, thinking he was right. But after hearing Becky's story, I knew Ryan's words were full of lies. "Oh, really? Leaving all the housework to your daughter and not spending time with your father is called taking care of the family?" "Yeah, ever since you brought me here, you've been lazing around at home."
"Shut up. This is just a one-time thing. I'm usually the one working hard."
Watching Ryan boast, I pulled out my father-in-law's account of household expenses that I had previously obtained. It detailed not only the money in and out, but also how Ryan spent his time at his parents' house. Let me tell you what's written here. June 10th gave Ryan $200 for transportation. He lazed around all day as usual, went out at night, and returned in the morning. Food expenses increased because of Ryan's presence. I calmly read out the details. According to this, every time Ryan visited, he lied about me not giving him transportation money and received cash from his father. Taking advantage of my absence, Ryan had painted me as a stingy evil wife to gain sympathy from his father. How can you not be ashamed of mooching off your parents at your age? And getting all sorts of help too.
I felt sorry for him, thinking he didn't have any money, and tried to help out. All that was a lie too.
Cornered by our accusations, Ryan fell silent, at a loss for words. What have you been using all that money for, I wonder?
Well...
No need to say anything. You're probably just thinking up another pathetic lie. Ignoring Ryan's mumbling, I presented a photo in front of him. You needed so much money because you were splurging at places like this, right?
How do you know about this place?
The photo showed Ryan entering a gentleman's club. Surprised that I knew about it, the color drained from his face. The secret that Becky had discovered while Ryan was visiting his parents was this. She thought Ryan was diligently caring for his father, but he was actually going out at night and returning in the morning. Suspicious, she secretly investigated and installed an app on his phone to track his location. After he left, she checked his whereabouts on a computer, always finding him at the same place. Researching online, Becky found out it was a gentleman's club. Shocked, she was about to call me when Ryan returned home. He found her researching the location and the club on the computer and, in a fit of rage, pushed her. Becky hit her head on the corner of a dresser, causing the bleeding. And the rest is as you know. After hearing Becky's story, I left my mother in the care of professionals for a few days and went to the club to gather evidence of Ryan's wasteful spending. And the shock I felt seeing my husband cheerfully entering the club. The money for this visit, even if temporary, was taken from Becky's school fund, and you used it for this? Dad, you're the worst. Ryan, cornered by undeniable evidence, muttered weakly.
Isn't this normal for men?
And looked up at his father for support.
What are you talking about? Using your child's school money for your satisfaction is inexcusable for any man. I'm tired from work. Isn't it okay to have a little fun?
Becky sighed in exasperation at Ryan's stubbornness. Mom, do you know what kind of place that is? Huh? Oh no, I just took the photo and left immediately. I thought so. Here, take this. Becky said this as she laid out several printed pages of the club's website on the table. Looking over them with my father-in-law, we saw that the outfits worn by the girls at the club were school uniforms. They all seemed to be adults, but it was a gentleman's club where they cosplayed in revealing school uniforms. Seeing this, I thought to myself, exposing my daughter of this age to such a world. I was filled with anger, but Becky seemed unfazed. So, Dad, you like this kind of stuff, huh? Gross. She handed the papers to Ryan with a shudder, as if the idea was repulsive.
Well, you don't have to say it like that.
You know, if your clients at the schools found out about your love for girls with uniforms, it could be a big problem, right? I doubt your company, which sells educational materials to schools, would want to keep an employee with such hobbies. I said this with an icy stare, and Ryan turned pale. I quickly grabbed Ryan's schedule book, which was left in his business bag, and found it easily. Looking at this, now I know all the schools you've been visiting. Maybe I should inform your clients about your wonderful hobby.
Please, spare me that. I'm sorry, I went too far. I'll change my ways from now on.
Realizing he couldn't escape, Ryan started trembling and knelt down. He apologized profusely, but years of frequenting those clubs and wasting money, not to mention injuring our daughter, were not forgivable. Who would believe a liar like you, Dad? I've consulted with a lawyer and I'm ready to proceed with a divorce. I'll make sure you pay back all the money you squandered on your indulgences, plus compensation. This is the end for us.
But...
Ryan tried to cling to Becky, but she dodged him, saying, "Ew, gross!" And eventually he broke down crying. We glared at him coldly, seeing how pathetic he was. Soon after, the divorce was finalized, and I demanded from Ryan the $15,000 he had squandered and $30,000 in compensation. Eventually, word of his club visits leaked to his company, and Ryan was fired. Even his father cut ties with him. and now he lives alone in a rundown house, barely making ends meet with day-to-day jobs. Unable to afford the compensation payments, he ended up borrowing money from shady lenders and now lives in fear of debt collectors. Meanwhile, I have found more time to myself after the divorce. With Becky's help, my mother's health improved significantly, and she no longer needs care. Now, the three of us women are enjoying a happy and harmonious life together.
My name's Isabella, and I'm 35 years old. I work as a dietitian in a nursing home. It's my job to create menus that allow residents to enjoy their meals while getting balanced nutrition. Thinking of menus that cater to each individual's needs is quite a challenge. But when residents show their happiness by saying the food is delicious, all my fatigue vanishes. I find my job very fulfilling and rewarding. 10 years ago, I married Kyle, who is 2 years older than me. We met at our part-time job during our university days. That part-time job was at an Italian restaurant. Both Kyle and I were good at cooking, so we had a lot in common. Gradually, we started seeing each other outside of work, and before we knew it, we were a couple. When I had just started my job and was getting used to it, Kyle proposed to me. We have been together for 15 years since I was 20 years old. Although it's been a long time, we have managed to live peacefully without major fights. By the way, we don't have children. We decided together that we wanted to complete our lives just as a couple. At one point, there was happy news from Kyle's brother. I can finally open my own restaurant. Kyle's 40-year-old brother had quit his office job to become a chef and had been training in restaurants for a long time. He had divorced due to his ex-wife's infidelity. When he was at rock bottom, struggling in his work, he came across a certain restaurant. The food there seemed to have touched his heart as he was feeling down, and he decided to become a chef. Kyle's brother fell in love with the restaurant's flavors and trained hard. His efforts were recognized, and he was given the opportunity to split off from his mentor, the restaurant owner. That's great! Your hard work has paid off! Congratulations! Kyle's brother had a happy yet somewhat shy expression. The master was so strict, I can hardly believe it's real, but I'm truly happy. We offered heartfelt congratulations to Kyle's brother, who had achieved his dream. We should celebrate big time. How about a family-only meal before the opening? I'd appreciate it if you could taste my cooking and give me feedback. That sounds great. Then let's have dinner here 1 week before the opening. I'll contact Mom. I felt a bit uneasy at Kyle's brother's words. It was obvious that the mother-in-law would come since it was a family dinner. However, I had a hard time getting along with this mother-in-law. My first impression of her was that she seemed strong-willed. She was physically robust, quite different from her slender son. Despite her tough exterior, which seemed like it could withstand any hardship, she had gone through a lot of difficulties in her younger days. She had been harassed by her mother-in-law when she married into the family. When Kyle and I went to greet her for our marriage, she shared the story. Back then, all I could do was endure it. I realized then how hard she had worked to raise her 2 children despite such circumstances. Kyle and I had initially planned to live with her. Kyle's father had passed away 10 years ago, so she was the only one living in the family home. Kyle seemed worried about his mother living alone. From what I hear from friends who live with their in-laws, it doesn't seem very pleasant. Unlike Kyle, with whom I had a relationship, living with an unfamiliar mother-in-law seemed like it would require a lot of caution. Some of my friends have had bad experiences with living with in-laws, so I wasn't very positive about the idea. However, I believed my mother-in-law, who had suffered from harassment herself, would surely not do the same to me. Besides, living alone in a large house must be lonely, so I was open to the idea of living together. Still, there was some anxiety about living with the mother-in-law I didn't know well. Therefore, we decided to try living together for a month as a trial. However, that month completely broke my spirit. Despite saying she had suffered from harassment, she did the same to me. Even though we both worked, she imposed all the household chores on me and constantly nagged about minor things. At first, I thought I just needed to be more careful, but gradually I became irritated. Mother, since you're home longer because of your part-time job, could you please take care of some household tasks? How dare you, a mere daughter-in-law, give me orders? That one statement from her confirmed that living together was absolutely impossible for me. When I honestly discussed what she said with Kyle, he sighed and gave me a wry smile. I'm sorry, my mom is old-fashioned and often speaks without thinking. I'll talk to her. Let's just forget about living together. Kyle managed to dismiss the idea of living together by citing the distance from his workplace. Of course, the mother-in-law was reluctant, but thanks to Kyle's persuasion, we were able to dissolve the living arrangement without issues. After that, we only visited the in-laws' house during Thanksgiving or Christmas. Even though we seldom met, the mother-in-law seemed to view me as an adversary. I felt awkward facing her. Then came the day of the dinner. We prepared a wonderful interior decoration as a celebration for Kyle's brother's restaurant. It was chosen to match the ambience of his restaurant, taking considerable time to select. I was excited until we arrived at the restaurant. However, at the entrance stood a woman in a commanding pose. "Mom, what are you doing here?" It was unmistakably the mother-in-law. When Kyle called out to her, she waved cheerfully. "Mother, long time no see." When I spoke, her expression instantly turned stern, and she gestured for me to leave. "Today is a family-only meal, right? Why is Isabella here? Outsiders are not allowed." She insisted almost forcibly that I should leave alone. Despite being treated harshly, I believed that marrying Kyle made his mother part of my family. However, she saw me as an outsider. Shocked by this realization, I was at a loss for words. "Mom, what are you saying? Isabella is family too." "No, she's not. Isabella is just a daughter-in-law, not family." Despite Kyle's desperate defense, the mother-in-law kept hurling cold words. "I'll go home. Please enjoy the family dinner." Unable to bear it anymore, I left the restaurant, entrusting the interior decoration to Kyle. "Wait, Isabella!" "I'm sorry, but I can't celebrate properly in this mood." I felt sorry for leaving Kyle like that, but I couldn't forgive the mother-in-law's words. My sadness gradually turned to anger, and I decided to make a phone call. "Hello, what are you doing now?" I decided to take revenge on the mother-in-law who drove me out alone. Meanwhile, the mother-in-law boasted to Kyle's brother, "I've driven the daughter-in-law away, so now we can celebrate with family in peace." "What? Isabella left?" What's the matter? Do you have a complaint? Complaint? No, but wasn't that unnecessary? Mom, you've always been like this. Seeing the brothers' dismay, Kyle couldn't hide his panic. This is bad, brother. Don't you know Isabella's maiden name? Huh? Her maiden name? I don't know it. Isabella's maiden name is O'Neill, the same as your master's. Upon hearing this, Kyle's brother stiffens. No way. The master's only daughter? Yes, that's Isabella. What do you mean? Kyle's brother starts sweating and his face turns pale. The mother-in-law looks confused, not understanding the situation. We need to call Isabella back quickly. I'll call her right now. Kyle hurriedly phones me. Hello, Isabella. Mom was wrong earlier. Please come back to the restaurant. Alright, I'll be there soon. At that moment, there's a knock at the restaurant's door. Hey, are you there? It's me. Open up. Kyle's brother immediately recognizes the voice. Realizing he's done something bad, he slowly opens the door with a pale face. Master, I heard the story from Isabella. I raised you to be better than this. Driving out my daughter like that? The mother-in-law, still not understanding the situation, appears behind the disheartened brother. Oh, who are you? This restaurant isn't open yet. Hello, I'm Isabella's father, and also his master. I decided to split the curtain with him, but with a mother-in-law like this? Hearing this, the mother-in-law turns pale, finally realizing the situation. When Kyle and I married, we were both busy, so there was no meeting between our families or a wedding ceremony. Thus, this was the first time my father and the mother-in-law met. Neither the mother-in-law nor Kyle's brother knew that my father was their master. Master, I'm so sorry for my mother's extremely rude behavior towards Isabella. It was your mother who drove out my daughter, wasn't it? You shouldn't be the one apologizing. Hearing this, the mother-in-law opens her eyes wide and retorts, What? I'm the only bad guy here? Despite clearly being in the wrong, she refuses to admit it. It seems her pride won't allow her to accept that her actions are being criticized. I said it was a family meal. It's strange for a disappointing daughter-in-law who didn't even have a wedding ceremony to come. It's always been decided that daughters-in-law shouldn't be overbearing. The mother-in-law starts complaining, imposing her idea of what a daughter-in-law should be. You know, the past is the past. This is now. Don't you think it's strange to impose old ideas like that? It's not strange. My thoughts are correct. No matter what the father says, the mother-in-law keeps complaining. Tired of the exchange, the father mutters, Maybe I should call off the curtain splitting. What? No! The restaurant run by my father is a well-established local favorite. Training there and getting a curtain split would mean gaining fame for his own restaurant. More importantly, Kyle's brother's efforts were behind the decision to split the curtain. If that's taken back, all his efforts would be in vain. I'm so sorry for my mother's rudeness. Kyle's brother looks close to tears. But being able to open a restaurant with a curtain split from the master was my dream come true. Please forgive us. My father glanced at the mother-in-law. Then, mother-in-law, please do not come to this restaurant ever again. Bad customers lower the quality of the establishment. What did you say? Or perhaps come back when you've learned some manners. The mother-in-law, fueled by anger, clenched her fists, and raised her voice. Kyle's brother stepped in to calm her down. "Sorry, Mom, but this restaurant is really important to me. We can't have incidents like this with other customers. If you're going to behave like this, please don't come to the restaurant." Rejected by her own son, the mother-in-law stood in shock, her eyes wide open. "I'll take Mom home. Master, Isabella, please enjoy my brother's cooking." Kyle led the dazed his mother out of the restaurant. Despite the awkward atmosphere, Kyle's brother meticulously prepared the meal. Effort put into the dish was evident. Father tasted it and smiled in satisfaction. "Delicious. It's not just a copy of my cooking. There's a proper twist to it. It will surely be loved by the customers." Kyle's brother was pleased to hear these words. After dropping off the mother-in-law, Kyle returned and we all enjoyed the meal together. A few days later, an incident occurred. "What is this?" There were numerous negative reviews posted on a review website about my father's restaurant. The content was all false accusations. "Half of the ingredients in this restaurant are rotten. The owner is buried in debt and constantly gambling. The daughter is unemployed and keeps moving between men's homes." Not only were there false complaints about the restaurant, but also about my father and me. Wanting to protect my father's restaurant's reputation, my father and I immediately consulted a lawyer. We also requested the disclosure of the reviewer's identity. Given the severity of the content, the lawyer acted quickly. After a while, we identified the person who posted the reviews. It was all the work of one person. Learning that it wasn't multiple people who had written the reviews, I felt relieved for the moment. However, when I looked at the information about the poster, I was very disappointed. As I thought, it was the mother-in-law. Given the timing and the content about my father and me, I had suspected as much, but seeing her name in the information was still disappointing. She must have thought she was getting revenge, but this is something you shouldn't do. We sighed at the mother-in-law's thoughtless actions. My father and I decided to proceed with consulting the lawyer and claim damages from the mother-in-law. When the mother-in-law received the demand for damages, she was furious and suddenly showed up at our house. On the intercom screen, the mother-in-law looked furious, sensing danger I couldn't face her. Kyle went out to talk to her and said, "Isn't Isabella here? I'll listen to what you have to say, but even if she were here, I couldn't let you see her in your current state. I received a letter about paying damages from Isabella. There's no way I can pay this kind of money." The mother-in-law seemed to be in a panic, raising her voice. "Please stop. You're disturbing the neighbors. You did something wrong, so it can't be helped. It's all because Isabella and her family did terrible things to me. I was just getting back at them. Please let me see Isabella. I can't pay this kind of money." The mother-in-law broke down, crying and crushed at the entrance. Worried about neighbors seeing this, I came out from deeper within the house. Mother, Isabella, you were here." The mother-in-law, her face a mess from tears and runny nose, looked up. "We're family, so let's just forget about all this, shall we, huh?" Despite having treated me as an outsider all this time, I thought she was conveniently forgetful. Struggling to contain my anger, I said to the mother-in-law, The amount is for the disruption caused to my father's business by those posts. If you want to show sincerity, please pay it in full. But I don't have the money. Is that so? Then let's do this. I look straight at the mother-in-law. I can't cancel the damages, but I can reduce them by half. In return, please do not cause any more trouble for my father and Kyle's brother's restaurant. Yes. Don't spread rumors to the staff or customers if you go to the restaurant. Don't write false complaints on review sites. Can you do that? Yes. If you break that promise, the full amount of damages will be claimed. Yes, I understand. Relieved by the reduced amount, the mother-in-law finally softened her expression and thanked me as she left. Since then, the mother-in-law has become quite subdued, no longer harassing me. She's been paying the damages in installments every month. Seeing her keeping her promise, I thought there was no need for further revenge. Kyle's brother's restaurant, thanks to the split curtain from my father, was bustling from day one, with hardly a moment to rest. The mother-in-law visited Kyle's brother's restaurant on weekdays when I wasn't there. She was moved to tears by his cooking for the first time. Thanks to the master teaching me, I can make delicious food. Hearing this, Kyle's brother seemed to finally realize my father's greatness. Though the mother-in-law's fundamental personality hasn't changed, she still doesn't act negatively towards the restaurant. She's now enthusiastically spreading the word about its good points. Kyle's brother's restaurant is popular among young people, and he was preparing menus targeted at them. That's when he remembered that I am a dietitian. He wanted to incorporate nutritionally balanced menus and use that as a selling point. Of course, I readily agreed and sometimes helped with menu development. The old mother-in-law would have vehemently opposed my involvement in Kyle's brother's restaurant, but now she's mellowed out, even favoring the menus developed by Kyle's brother and me. Her demeanor has brightened compared to when she treated me as an enemy. Although I had to resort to demanding damages, it seems to have been beneficial for the mother-in-law in the end.
Eric is calling for you. Hurry up and come to the hospital. No, I don't want to. After all, that child is. I replied that way and looked at my son, who was studying. There's not a single reason for me to rush to the hospital for that child, who is truly someone else's. What are you saying? Just come quickly. But Alex is right in front of me, isn't he? What? Oh. With my words, it seemed that Tom finally realized who he was calling. Sorry, I thought you were Alex by mistake. Well, okay. Let's talk when you get back. About what to do next. Tom was speechless on the other end of the phone. Did he think he could keep it hidden for the past 4 years? I know everything. Jenny. Wait a minute. Ignoring Tom's plea, I hung up the phone. Well, shall we get started? I said, rolling up my sleeves and standing up. I'll make sure you regret this. My name is Jenny Parker. I'm a 49-year-old office worker. I love my job, and I've come to like it even more recently because of my promotion. If I hadn't reconnected with my husband at this company where I started as a new graduate, I probably wouldn't have been married today. My husband, Tom, was a senior in college. Though we didn't really interact much. It was just that he happened to be one of the people who came to help at the freshman camp I went to during orientation. So, for a while after joining the company, I didn't remember him at all and was completely absorbed in my work. Then, at the welcome party for new employees, Tom spoke to me. And I remembered him for the first time. Weren't you in the same group as me during the college orientation? Don't you remember? What? Sorry. It's okay. I thought you were a beautiful girl since then. That's how the conversation started. And from the next day, Tom began to wave at me whenever he saw me. Gradually, this turned into bringing snacks, then lunch, and then going out together. I will definitely make you happy. I want to date you with the intention of marriage. That was his proposal, about half a year after we started going out together. By that time, I had also fallen in love with Tom and happily accepted his proposal. That's how our relationship started. We dated for about 2 years, and after meeting each other's parents, we got married. It wasn't a passionate love, but it was a peaceful and happy time. This didn't change even after our son Alex was born, rather our happiness only increased. I truly thought I was lucky to have married Tom. However, around the time Alex entered middle school, Tom's attitude began to change gradually. His transfer to a different department led to increased overtime and working on holidays. My current department is busier than yours. Even though I hadn't said anything, Tom would make such excuses, and I started to feel suspicious. However, Tom's department was indeed known to be busy with a lot of overtime. There wouldn't be any time for affairs, I thought, and shelved my doubts. But Tom coming home late created one problem. It was about taking care of Alex and the household chores. Even though a middle schooler doesn't require much attention, I didn't want to give a child who was studying hard every day at cram school just sandwiches. Reluctantly, I decided to scale back on work until Alex entered university. However, when I discussed it with my boss, I was told that it was difficult to scale back due to a shortage of manpower. It might sound boastful, but I was competent at my job, working about twice as much as my colleagues. Therefore, if I were to step back now, it could potentially halt operations. My boss suggested introducing telework instead of reducing hours. And I was allowed to adopt a flex time system. So, I started working from home. When I told Tom about it, he responded with a smirk and something surprising. Then, you can take care of all the household chores. I'm busy, you know. I'm working too, you know. It's okay if the share of household chores increases a bit, but doing everything is too much. I retorted, but Tom didn't listen at all. True to his word, after I started teleworking, Tom began coming home even later. Every day, Tom would come home drunk late at night, and along with the smell of alcohol, I could smell perfume on him. He must be drinking with colleagues at nightclubs, I thought, and endured it. However, one day, I found lipstick on his shirt and confronted Tom. Hold on, there's lipstick on you. Whose is it? There was a woman sitting close to me at a drinking party. It must have gotten on me then. What, are you jealous? I was just fed up and listening. Who would be jealous? I cursed in my mind. Since then, even if I found lipstick on Tom's shirt, I started to ignore it. After living like this for 3 years, by the time Alex was in his 3rd year of high school, my love for Tom had completely faded, and we felt more like roommates. However, no matter how much my love faded, there were unforgivable things. It was about Alex's birthday. What? Where are you going? Just going out for a bit. No matter how busy, we always had a meal together as a family on Alex's birthday. That's why I had reserved a restaurant for this year as well. But Tom just went to the entrance alone in a hurry. Wait, today is Alex's birthday, you know? So what? It's just the day he was born, right? I was stunned by Tom's words. Tom used to value anniversaries so much. Even before we were married. He said he wanted to celebrate our children's birthdays no matter how old they got. Are you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. Oh, I see. Without looking at me, Tom quickly left. As soon as the door closed, tears started flowing. That's it, I'm getting a divorce. The words slipped out, but they were my true feelings. That day, Alex and I enjoyed a meal together, and then we stayed at my parents' house. I didn't contact Tom, but judging from the lack of phone calls or emails, he probably hadn't come back yet. A father who disregards his son's birthday and stays out without notice is better off not being around for Alex's sake. I made that decision and told my parents. They listened to my story and agreed. Since I had no intention of returning to Tom, the first step was to look for a new place. Fortunately, my income is above average. And with my department mainly working from home now, there's no inconvenience in working from my house. I looked for properties while working. Maybe it's a good idea to buy a house. While looking at a cozy little house, I felt my heart race for the first time in a while. Then one day, I decided to go see a property. Little did I know that this would accelerate the divorce proceedings with Tom. It's a nice place. And it's close to the station. The area I was looking at was near the university Alex wanted to attend. Since it takes an hour to commute from where we currently live, I thought it'd be better to live closer. Alex is working hard, studying to get into the university I attended. I didn't want to add unnecessary stress on him. We'll move after getting into the university. Thinking that, I stopped by a nearby shopping mall. Hey. Wait up. What? I instinctively hid when I heard Tom's voice. In front of me, Tom was waving at someone. When I shifted my gaze, I almost exclaimed out loud. Daddy. Hurry, hurry. Hurry up. A woman I recognized and a boy about 4 years old. There, running up to them and smiling gently, was Tom. It was clearly the picture of a happy family enjoying their weekend. I see. The period when Tom became cold and stopped coming home, and the boy's age matched up. That means the boy is Tom's child, and the woman is his mistress. I couldn't stop my dry laughter. The love was long gone, but somewhere, I must have still believed there was no affair. However, as Alex's mother, I couldn't afford to be shocked and stand still. I took a photo of the three and left the shopping mall. While on the train, I searched for a detective agency. Then, I visited an office near our house. I have someone I want you to investigate. One is my husband, Tom, and the other is. I gave the detective the names and the photo I had taken earlier. Then, I went home and did my usual housework. Mom, what's wrong? You look pale. What? Oh, I'm just a little tired. Don't push yourself. I can help too. What are you saying? You're a student. It's okay. I couldn't worry Alex. I spent my days smiling and acting bravely. This isn't just about divorce. I will definitely get revenge on them. I harbored a rage I had never felt before. Weeks later, the detective contacted me. The report was ready with all the information. I went to the detective's office and reviewed the documents. As expected, the boy I saw was Tom's child, and he had even acknowledged him. This was the worst. I was distraught. But looking at another set of documents the detective handed me, I felt a bit of hope. I would bring them down after Alex got into university. I made up my mind and took the documents home. Months passed, and I had the detective follow Tom and his mistress. It cost money, but that didn't matter. It would just add to the compensation during the divorce. Tom didn't seem to hide his affair, taking his mistress and child out everywhere. It turned out that the shopping mall visit was just by chance. And the mistress's house was just a few minutes' walk from our home. Moreover, the house was registered under Tom's name. To think he would house his mistress so close, it felt like he was mocking me and Alex. Unforgivable. I couldn't help but say it out loud. I will definitely make them kneel down in front of me and Alex. With that resolve, I started planning. The execution would be after Alex's acceptance announcement. With that as my goal, I began collecting evidence bit by bit. And finally, on the day of Alex's acceptance announcement, Alex was studying in the living room but also kept glancing at the computer. I watched over him nervously. It should be soon. My heart was pounding when the phone rang. I hurriedly pressed the call button. It was Tom on the other end. "Eric is calling for you. Hurry up and come to the hospital." "No, I don't want to. After all, that child is." I replied that way and looked at my son, who was studying. There's not a single reason for me to rush to the hospital for that child, who is truly someone else's. "What are you saying?" "Just come quickly." "But Alex is right in front of me, isn't he?" "What?" "Oh." With my words, it seemed that Tom finally realized who he was calling. "Sorry, I thought you were Alex by mistake." "Well, okay. Let's talk when you get back." About what to do next. Tom was speechless on the other end of the phone. Did he think he could keep it hidden for the past 4 years? "I know everything." "Jenny." "Wait a minute." Ignoring Tom's plea, I hung up the phone. "Well, shall we get started?" I said, rolling up my sleeves and standing up. "I'll make sure you regret this." Right after hanging up the phone from Tom, Alex turned to me with a smile. "Mom. I did it. I passed." "Really? That's amazing. Good for you." Alex and I celebrated together. Then, after a moment of joy, Alex suddenly became serious and spoke up. "I'm old enough to not need a father anymore since I've got into university." So, you should divorce him. Alex, you knew.
Yeah,
I knew. I was shocked by Alex's words. Apparently, he had seen Tom and his mistress walking affectionately with a baby when coming back from school. At first, he thought they were just acquaintances, but after seeing them multiple times, he realized it was an affair. I kept quiet because I thought you'd be shocked. Alex. Thank you. I'm okay. I always thought of Alex as my cute little boy, but he had grown up admirably. I felt happy and a bit ashamed as a parent. At that moment, we heard the front door open. Tom had come back. I'm home. Tom entered the living room, visibly nervous, as Alex and I looked at him coldly. Tom's face turned pale at the entrance of the living room. Still, trying to act normal, Tom forced a smile and started talking to Alex. So, have you been studying properly? Which university are you going to? It seemed Tom had forgotten that Alex was already in his senior year of high school. Alex's gaze turned even colder. Noticing this, Tom suddenly got angry. What's with that look towards your father? Who do you think is providing for you? Just Mom, actually. Well, I contribute too. The scene was a flustered father and a calmly responding son. Clearly, Alex had the upper hand. Alex sighed and pointed to the computer. Today was the university acceptance announcement. Oh, you're at that age already. How did it go? Why should I tell you? What? Tom was taken aback by Alex's words, staring at him open-mouthed. Besides, why are you back? I'm going out to eat with Mom. You should go to your mistress and their kid. You knew. Tom seemed to have never thought he would get caught despite living so close. He just stood there, staring at Alex. Alex looked at him with disdain. Someone who doesn't cherish my mom isn't a father. From now on, I'll protect Mom, so you better just get a clean divorce. Alex. Tom, clearly advised to divorce by Alex, looked at me pleadingly. But there's no way I would help Tom. That's right. If you're only going to contribute to the college fees, there's absolutely no reason for us to stay married. Jenny too. Tom burst into tears like a tragic heroine. There's definitely no more unrelatable heroine than him. I thought this as I coldly looked down at Tom, who was kneeling and crying. Mom, I want Italian. Oh, that sounds nice. However, as we started discussing it, Tom suddenly lit up. I know a great Italian place. Let's go there to celebrate and make up. I couldn't understand why I would need to make up with a man who cheated. Looking at Alex, he seemed to feel the same way. Didn't you hear? It's just going to be Mom and me. Exactly. Plus, I wouldn't want to go to the Italian place you took them to. Tom was surprised, thinking nothing was known. I had learned from the detective where Tom and his group frequented. So, I knew exactly where that Italian place was and its name. Why should I have to settle for leftovers from your affair for my son's celebration? It's bad luck and I don't like it. At my words, Tom's face twisted in annoyance. Still, he had no intention of taking back what he said. Then, turning red with anger, Tom glared at me and started yelling. It's because of your attitude that he's cold towards me. You're the one who raised him wrong. Who do you think raised him? Tom pointed at Alex as he said this, but I just gave him an even colder look. That would be me, wouldn't it? Well, maybe a little, but I did too. To be precise, I've been covering the middle school fees, tutoring fees, and living expenses since he entered middle school. In fact, Tom stopped contributing to living expenses around the time Alex entered middle school. He used to give money when asked several times, but then he stopped altogether. At first, I would greet him when we saw each other. But after several months of him not contributing, I stopped mentioning it altogether by the end of the year. If you want to talk about raising and contributing money, then please pay all the backdated living expenses and school fees you've missed. I don't have that kind of money. Well, you seem to be living quite luxuriously. I took an envelope from the drawer and handed it to Tom. Inside was Tom's bank transaction history. In fact, keeping the bank book updated was my responsibility since we got married. I didn't do it monthly, but I had been doing it quite frequently lately. Therefore, I was fully aware of Tom's financial movements. You've been spending a large part of your salary every month. And you have debts, don't you? I have no intention of bearing that burden. But spouses are supposed to help each other out, right? That's why we're getting a divorce. Adding, "What are you talking about?" drained the color from Tom's face. Alex and I escorted Tom out the door and locked it behind him. Well then, goodbye. Wait. I can't get back in the house. I avoided the clinging Tom and got into the car. Then, Alex, smiling brightly, approached Tom. You're in the way of the car, move. How can you say such things to your father? That's because I don't have a father. Hey. With a smile, Alex said, goodbye, and got into the car. Ignoring the stunned Tom, I started the car and headed to the Italian restaurant. Days passed, and Tom didn't show up. There was a lot to do with the divorce proceedings and property division. But work was my priority for now. That's what I was thinking when I sat down at the computer. Excuse me. Without ringing the bell, a high-pitched voice came from the courtyard. Hello. I know you're there. Come out, please. I stood up from my seat, already knowing who the visitor was. Please don't raise your voice. It's a nuisance to the neighbors. Well, if Jenny had come out sooner, I wouldn't have had to. The woman speaking so unabashedly was Lucy, someone I trained during new hire orientation, and Tom's mistress. She was supposed to be at work today. What about your job? I took a day off today. I couldn't talk to Jenny though. Twirling her hair around her finger, Lucy had a triumphant look on her face. I'll be taking Tom from you. You don't deserve him. Besides, I'm pregnant with our second child. Making her own sound effects, Lucy rubbed her stomach. I just held my head in my hands. You're completely unaware of Tom's financial situation, aren't you? What? Lucy looked puzzled. I showed her Tom's bank book that I had shown Tom earlier. Lucy looked through it and then burst out laughing. Stop joking, Jenny. I know he's saved up a lot more. What do you mean? When I asked, clueless, Lucy continued to giggle and then dropped a bombshell. Tom said after the divorce, he'd give the house to Lucy. And I'd get a lot from the property division. So that's what it was. I understood now. But Tom had forgotten something crucial. I laid out the truth to Lucy. Unfortunately, this house is in my name. Plus, since he hasn't contributed to living expenses, and there's the affair, the divorce will be due to his fault. No property division, and he'll owe compensation. What? Lucy froze, unable to comprehend, and then started muttering quietly. I explained further for clarity. This place was originally my family home that we renovated. So, Tom has no rights here. And with the compensation and the debt from your relationship, there won't be much left for Tom. That's a lie. A lie? Lucy exclaimed and then called someone. As soon as the person picked up, she began yelling into the phone. Hey. This isn't what we agreed on. You said everything would go to Lucy, right? What? Now. I'm at Jenny's. Sorry, can I talk to them for a second? Hey, wait a minute. Realizing the conversation was going nowhere, I snatched the phone from Lucy. It was Tom on the other end. I spoke into the phone with a cold voice. How much more trouble do you plan to cause? Jenny. This isn't what it looks like. That's enough. A second child, you say? You've been busy, haven't you? A second child. It seemed Tom was unaware of the pregnancy. He raised his voice in surprise, and then quickly said he would come over before hanging up. Lucy was thrilled to hear. Here Tom was coming. Tom's coming. Great. He said we couldn't see each other for a while. Eric misses him too. I really want him to come back home. Where's Eric now? He's at daycare today. Lucy seemed puzzled why I would ask about the child, appearing a bit annoyed. I heard he fell from the balcony? It was just a fracture. You left a 4-year-old alone? Got a problem with that? Lucy answered me with a suspicious look. Then she cheerfully opened her mouth. Look. How long are you going to leave a pregnant woman outside? Please serve some tea in the living room. I complied with her brazen request. Just as I was making coffee, Tom entered the room. Lucy. Tom. I'm in the middle of negotiations here. I'll make sure to get the house, so wait for me. That's supposed to be my. You're late, Tom. While occasionally glancing at me, Lucy leaned on Tom and wrapped her arms around him. She might be trying to show off, but I wasn't envious at all. I'm sorry, but I won't be giving up the house. But if I move out, this house will be too big for you, right? In what world does someone hand over their house, which is in their name and essentially their family home, to their husband and his mistress? At my words, Tom looked visibly uncomfortable. Lucy quickly interjected. With Eric, me, Tom, and the baby, our current house is too small. It's just you and your son at your place, right? Please give it to us. She was pushy during training, but this was on another level. Frustrated, I laid out several photos in front of them. Seeing them, Lucy's face turned pale. Were you following me? Of course. You're my husband's mistress, after all. But these photos. Lucy frantically tried to gather the photos, but it was too late. Tom held one and confronted Lucy with a red face. What is this? That's just a friend. You go arm in arm with a male friend to the maternity clinic. Well, the photo showed Lucy smiling as she walked arm in arm with a young man out of a maternity clinic. They looked like a couple or spouses, which couldn't be explained away as just friends. I decided to kindly inform them. That man is a bartender, and you're a client, right? How did you know? And you've been seen entering a hotel together several times. So, that second child is? Before I could finish, Tom stood up. I turned my gaze to Tom. You've been that easy. Is Eric even my child? It's over. I'll divorce you. What do you mean? What about the money? It's not my child. I won't give you anything. As they started arguing, I smiled at them. Then, for some reason, Tom gave me a sickly smile. This was all a mistake. Since it's not my child, it's over between us. So, we can start over, right? Huh. What do you mean? Shut up. Get out. As Tom selfishly demanded, Lucy resisted, her face turning red. Amidst this, I spoke up calmly. Impossible. I never want to see your face again. Don't say that. I physically can't. Just looking at you makes me sick. Tom froze, shocked by my words. Then, I turned to my computer, which was still on the table, and smiled at them. Here are people willing to testify about your affair. Mom. Lucy also exclaimed, Mom, at the same time. In fact, I had already been on the phone with them, discussing what to do next. Lucy had barged in while I was planning to work and talk. Why is Mom? I've heard everything. Despite having someone like Jenny Parker, you. It's disgraceful. Do not cross our threshold ever again. But, after being firmly declared cut off, Tom, perhaps lacking the energy to argue for reconciliation, staggered out of the room. Mom? There's a little reason for this. I did not raise someone to destroy another's family. You're going to your uncle's from tomorrow. What? No. Lucy's uncle's house is a dairy farm where there is no rest. And because of the intense male chauvinism, women are not allowed to rest and are almost always standing, except when sleeping. It seems harsh to send her there, but part of me feels it serves her right. Lucy ended up crying on the spot, and her mother had to come pick her up. Once everyone had left and silence returned, it was already evening, and I sighed in relief. Thanks to flex time, I can still make up for it, but I'm prepared for a late night at work. I'm home. Welcome back. Hey, want some pasta? Sounds good. Where shall we go? Watching Alex start looking for a restaurant as soon as he got back, I realized everything had finally come to an end. Later, Tom and I divorced through a lawyer. It seems Tom has also broken up with Lucy. Tom's parents apologized profusely, making me feel somewhat guilty. I said I wanted to continue our relationship because they had been very helpful. And they were overjoyed, crying. Tom paid me compensation for the affair and half of the college expenses. He seems to have taken on more debt recently, and no one has seen him. I've already received everything in one lump sum. So whatever happens to him now is none of my concern. It may sound cold, but that's genuinely how I feel. Lucy was forcibly taken to her uncle's by her mother's orders. She's woken up before dawn every day to help with work. It seems her uncle is keeping an eye on the compensation being paid monthly. By the way, I resigned from the company soon after. It seems she wasn't very good at her job, and many were happy to see her go. For me, the decrease in errors in the documents coming from Tom's department has seemingly improved work efficiency. Her children are being raised by her parents, and apparently, both are that bartender's children. The older child's injury wasn't too bad, and a month after getting hurt, he was out of his cast and running around. Hearing that was a relief. Tom was essentially a cash cow, and I heard he was quickly abandoned once the money was gone. Alex successfully entered his first choice university. He's studying late every day with orientation and classes. He's planning to start a part-time job once he gets used to it to help support our family, which almost brought me to tears with his kindness. As for me, I'm still working hard. Recently, a project I proposed was approved, and as its leader, my days are busy but enjoyable. Also, a much younger man from the project's client side has been vigorously pursuing me, waiting for my divorce. I told him I have a college-aged son and am not ready to remarry yet. But he said he'd wait until I'm ready, and we've been dining out together recently. Spending time with him feels very comfortable, and we share similar tastes in food. I can't deny that my heart is a bit shaken. Alex even said it might be good to consider remarrying him. So I'm thinking about it more seriously these days. Mom, we're going to be late. Oh no. We have to hurry. Today, Alex and I have a reservation at a restaurant. It's a gift from my mother-in-law to celebrate his admission. Mom, I'm looking forward to it. Me too. We laughed and got into the car. I hope this happiness lasts a long time. With that thought, I started the car and headed to the restaurant.